hours, there was a shooting incident in South Park. There were patrol officers in the area. They heard the shots. They responded to the location, noticed damage on the house, made contact with individuals inside. At that point in time, they learned that there was a male in the lower portion of the home. They discovered that that individual had suffered grievous injury. The officers immediately initiated life-saving methods with first aid, contacted medics. Medics responded. Unfortunately, the victim succumbed to the injuries. There were numerous shell casings out in the street. Homicide detectives responded to the location and immediately began an investigation. Within hours of their investigation, they were able to identify a person of interest. That really started then the relentless effort upon the homicide detectives to fully identify that individual and locate that individual. Early this morning, they were able to locate the individual. He was in Kent. They then notified Kent PD, who assisted out at that location. The individual got into his vehicle and drove off, followed by our detectives, who then contacted Tukwila PD, who assisted in a stop on that vehicle in SeaTac. The detectives then made the arrest, impounded the vehicle, and brought the suspect back to Seattle Police Headquarters, where they then interviewed him. He is a 25-year-old male. He has now been booked into King County Jail for investigation of murder. The investigation is ongoing. Numerous search warrants will be served over the upcoming hours and days. We are still looking for any witnesses or anyone that might have any information, no matter how minor they might think it is, to please contact our homicide detectives via the tip line. And that's where the investigation currently stands. But as I said, this individual has now been booked into King County Jail for investigation of murder.
Could you tell us the suspect's connection to this neighborhood?
That's still under investigation. We don't have a conclusive answer to that question at this point in time, but we do know that he was purposely in that area. The home that was struck was not the intended target. So this was an individual who was just simply in his home and unfortunately was randomly hit with gunfire and died.
A lot of people who live on that street have said the house to the left is the one that's attracted problems to the neighborhood. Is that something that you can comment on? And if that home was the intended target to the left?
One of the things we're doing is we're reviewing all the criminal history for that entire neighborhood and trying to really localize exactly what happened and what led up to that event. So we don't have conclusive information right at this moment in time because we're still gathering evidence.
On a night like that, when you had two murders in the city, does that stretch resources thin, or does that begin to be a problem at all, or does that limit the investigations you can do maybe in those hours immediately following?
The one thing I can say is that we had a number of officers from both the North Precinct, South Precinct, responded to those scenes, did a fantastic job. The detectives that were on call responded to both those scenes, so we did have a very seamless investigation initiated from that. It certainly stretches resources. I mean, we have a finite number of resources, so anytime you've got scenes of that magnitude going on at the same time, it's going to put a stretch on what we can take on. But things were wrapped up very, very quickly, and with our evidence specialists that came out through crime scene investigations, taking over those scenes and then handling the evidence piece, it's been a seamless investigation. So we are continuing every lead, every tip in both of those investigations. We definitely are looking for any information that anybody has because we definitely want to talk to more witnesses or recover any more evidence that might be out there.
Are you able to comment on this man's criminal history? Has he had run into a Seattle PD before? Does he have a criminal record?
He does have a criminal history, but it's a very, from what we know so far, and again, it's still very early on in that phase of the investigation, so it's not a overly extensive criminal history.
We know that there's a community meeting that's coming up on Tuesday, and there have been safety concerns from people who live on that street. Is there anything that you'd like to say to them following this arrest for people who live on Donovan?
I hope what they'll take away from this is that the Seattle Police Department takes these very seriously. Seattle Police Department absolutely will put all resources necessary to these types of investigations. The first and foremost thought for us is the safety of the community. So this suspect is now in custody, has been booked. The investigation continues, but the folks that live in that area can feel safe tonight knowing that this suspect is now off the streets.
And are you able to release his name?
Yes. we are able to release his name, it's going to go up onto the blotter, and it will go out on the Twitter as well. So that will be there, and his age, like I said, he's 25 years old.
I know that emphasis patrols were taking place at a higher level. Is that going to continue in South Park?
It'll continue for a while. Just again, we want to really reassure the community and the citizens of Seattle that we are on top of this, and we are doing everything we can to ensure their safety.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly. When this person was taken into custody today,
Yes.
Seattle Police got assistance from 2 other police agencies. I mean, was it pretty seamless? Was there a challenge in taking him into custody today?
No, it was very seamless. The other 2 agencies were extremely willing to assist. There was no problem with that at all, and there was no issue at the arrest once the traffic stop occurred.
What was the initial traffic stop for? Just when he was pulled over?
To take him into custody.
Take him into custody.
That was the purpose.
Was there a firearm recovered at all?
I'm not going to get into any of the evidence that was recovered at this point in time. That's still part of the active investigation.
Can you comment on a motive at this point?
No, really can't. Again, that's all part of the investigation itself in preparation for the case to be presented to the prosecutors for charges.